Good afternoon, everybody. Big Mike back here with you once again. And welcome back to Big Mike Talks, the first part of the week, and this week in pro wrestling. And honestly, it's a little crazy. Try to keep up if you can. And let's do this. So, to start us off, we have Monday Night Raw. And our first couple draft picks of the night, we have Triple H coming out. He announces Brock Lesnar isn't eligible for the draft as he's negotiated a free agent status and can show up on any brand he wants. WWE, that's not a free agent, that's a freelancer. Call him what he is. Same thing goes for like Omos and Ziggler and Ali, Alexander, Benjamin, all those other guys. Free agents, you can't just play for a number of teams and then pick the team you want to choose at the end of the day. That's not how free agency works. Anyway, we have our first couple picks. We have Rhea Ripley going to Raw, sticking to Raw, I should say, even though she's the SmackDown Women's Champion. Don't know how they get out of that one. Actually, I do know how they get out of that one. Title swap. And it's as dumb as you think it is. Next pick, U.S. Champion Austin Theory going to SmackDown. Kinda predictable as we saw Imperium, including Gunther, the current Intercontinental Champion, going to Raw. So we have his equivalent going to SmackDown. Seth Rollins sticking to Raw. I thought he could use a move to SmackDown. Have some newer rivalries. Although Austin Theory's there, so. There is talk of Rollins winning the world title. The new one. I'd be okay with that. And then Charlotte Flair, who has taken a sabbatical, goes to SmackDown. So that is the first couple picks for the draft. Then out next, Paul Heyman. He's out there addressing Bloodline business. Talking the draft and talking up, the Usos issues. And how they didn't win back the tag team titles, which upset Roman. Hypes up their 6-man tag team match at Backlash. And then he says, why not have Roman Reigns win the New World title? Have him carry around 3. No. That just the idea of that gives me an aneurysm. Roman doesn't need any more title belts. He's got 2. They're plenty. Then out comes Seth Rollins, who pretty much says, "Oh, Heyman, this must be Christmas for you." That being the draft night, you got the Bloodline taking on these boys. And now with Roman on SmackDown, he doesn't have to run from Seth anymore. And then, new spoiler alert, Seth is going to win the world title. Hopefully. Seth then starts counting down, potentially attacking Heyman. Solo Sikoa comes in, makes the save. And it looks like we're getting Seth Rollins versus Solo later on tonight. Later on Monday, which should be fun. We then get a very interesting match. The women's tag team champions are in action as Liv Morgan and Raquel Rodriguez take on Bayley and Dakota Kai of Damage Control. It was a pretty basic match. Nothing to really write home about. Was it entertaining? Sure. A lot of good tag action from the champs. But ultimately, it leads to nothing as Bayley hits Liv with the roll-up for the victory. So, it looks like Damage Control, at least with Bayley and Dakota Kai this time, shooting for the tag team titles. Although, I don't know if that's really needed. Next bunch of draft picks we have are announced by Booker T and Sharmell, former world champion and his queen, which is always fun. To Raw, the unified tag team champions, Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn, going to Raw, although now that they're both Raw and SmackDown tag team champions, they can still go to the other brand? I don't know. I don't know what the play is here, but my hope is that WWE unify these two titles, make them the WWE Tag Team Championships, and then maybe create a new tag team title for SmackDown. Maybe a trios belt? Fingers crossed. I'd be okay with that. Usos are staying on SmackDown. No big surprise there. Rest of Judgment Day is sticking to Raw. And the entirety of the LWO, that being Rey Mysterio, Zelina Vega, Santos Escobar, Joaquin Wilde, and Cruz del Toro, are staying to SmackDown. Cool. Then we get Ricochet and Braun Strowman versus Alpha Academy, where it's been teased that maybe Alpha Academy will be broken up in the draft, and Maxime Dupri has been recruiting Otis. So, starts off really, really quick with Ricochet and Chad Gable in there. Then the monsters get in there and they start monster mashing each other. End of the day, after a Ricochet swanton off of Strowman's shoulders, which that's probably pretty high up, your winners, Braun Strowman and Ricochet. Okay, cool. Fun, simple. Next up, we have HBK, the Heartbreak Kid, Shawn Michaels, and Adam Pearce coming out to announce the next round of draft picks. However, they are interrupted by Brock Lesnar. And he's pretty much calling out Cody Rhodes, getting ready for their match at Backlash. Then Adam Pearce brings out a couple ways of security, pretty much telling Brock, no, we can't do this tonight, we're not ready to go, save it for Backlash, etc., etc. Cody's music hits. Brock Lesnar is looking towards the ramp. From behind, a big old right hand from Cody to Brock. And then Brock gets out of the ring while Cody is held back by all the security, which, honestly, I'll give WWE credit for this one. They're keeping Cody feeling like a threat to Brock. Will Brock win? Who knows? Well, I guess we'll see this Saturday. Predictions coming tomorrow. Stay tuned for that one. Then we actually get our draft picks as the women's tag team champions Liv Morgan and Raquel Rodriguez are drafted to Raw. Okay, brand change, not a big deal. Does that mean these tag team champions are exclusive to Raw? I'm not sure. I guess we'll see. Asuka going back to SmackDown, chasing Bianca Belair. Cool. The New Day going back to Raw. That's Kofi Kingston and Xavier Woods. Feel better soon, Big E. Love you, dude. And the Brawling Brutes. That's Sheamus, Ridge Holland, and Butch staying with SmackDown. Some brand changes, which is fine, but ultimately, yeah, cool. We then get shown Owens and Zayn backstage getting ready to strategize for their match coming up at Backlash. Matt Riddle interrupts. Pretty much recaps the week, hypes Backlash, and then says he's ready to take on Jimmy Uso later, coming up next. And that match is next. And honestly, Matt Riddle has kind of injected this story with a little bit more life, especially after this match. This match was fun. Although it did start out with shenanigans as Jay attacks Matt Riddle while the ref is distracted. But then Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn pull an Eddie Guerrero, where we see just Kevin Owens fall over, Sami Zayn get a steel chair, hit the announce table. Then he's like, ref, 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 pointing at Jimmy. Oh, and then tosses the chair to Jimmy, points at him, ref, ref, ref. He hit Kevin, he hit Kevin. Ref then throws Jimmy out, which is hilarious. So it is a true one-on-one contest now, although Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn are still out there. And they get massively involved with this match, and post Flying Bro, which is definitely the most Matt Riddle name I've ever heard. Your winner, Matt Riddle. Honestly, I had more fun with this match than I thought I would. Yeah, we'll see what happens going into Saturday. We then get an Io Sky vignette, pretty much saying, I don't bow down to anyone. I'm gonna beat Bianca Saturday. So, we'll see about that. We then get Solo Sikoa standing backstage with Paul Heyman. Heyman is hyping him up, getting him ready. In comes Jey Uso, and he asks Heyman, hey, where was my little brother during this match? And Heyman says, well, we want him to keep him focused on his match later on with Seth. That takes a little bit more priority. And then a little bit after that, Heyman and Solo leave the room, leaving Jay on his own. Which, definitely some more cracks in the bloodline. I'd like to see something a little bit more significant go down between these two. In which we might see that Saturday, honestly. Which, we'll see what happens. Next picks coming out. We got Eric Bischoff. He's back and better than ever. And Rob Van Dam announcing the next round of picks. We have Trish Stratus staying on Raw. Okay. I didn't realize she was eligible. And I guess Lita isn't. Spoiler alert. But whatever. Gonna see Trish and Becky down the road. That's pretty much the most interesting story WWE has in the women's division right now. So we'll see what happens. Karrion Kross and Scarlett stick with SmackDown, in which I guess that makes sense, but I feel like a change of brands would have really helped them. They kind of grown a little stale on SmackDown. Maybe he could be in the running for the Intercontinental title, although he ain't losing that anytime soon. So maybe sticking with SmackDown, maybe he'll get a U.S. title in the future. Who knows? We'll see. Shayna Baszler and Ronda Rousey as a team going to Raw. I don't mind this one. Women's tag team division is definitely taking a bit more of a shape. And it hopefully they smooth out some edges a little bit. And our final pick for this round, L.A. Knight. Yeah! Sticking with SmackDown. In which, honestly, that kind of does make sense to me. Although, I feel like if he would have gone to Raw, he would have been an easy contender for the world title. But, we'll see. Maybe he gets a decent U.S. title run. We then get Miz TV, because of course we do. His guest, Shinsuke Nakamura, and Miz pretty much says Nakamura has done a lot on WWE, but Raw is a different breed from SmackDown. Are you ready for your new opportunities? Nakamura pretty much says yeah. Miz then hypes himself up as potential workhorse for the world champion. Like, I loved the Miz's match last week against Seth. Miz should be nowhere near the world heavyweight title. Maybe in the tournament, but he should not be a world champion right off. He then tries to recruit Nakamura to be his second in command. And then we get a tiny balls joke, because of course we do. Miz then tries to jump Nakamura. Nakamura pretty much rolls out of the way. Big kick, Kinshasa, to finally end the segment, which went on way too long. Like, we do not need Miz TV segments. We are getting plenty of stuff from there. Omos squashes a jobber in about 20 seconds. Then, in a pretty big surprise of the night, we get Molly Holly and the Road Dogg Jesse James out next to announce the next round of draft picks. And honestly, I have nothing but respect for Molly Holly. She is one of the most hardest workers, both in the ring and backstage, although her in-ring career has ended, pretty long time ago. But she's one of my favorite women's wrestlers, maybe ever, and deserves way more flowers. Going to Raw, we got Braun Strowman and Ricochet. I like this team enough, but I feel like we could be doing more with it. Maybe a separation from the two would be interesting. Shotzi sticking with SmackDown. Okay. Bronson Reed sticking to Raw. Pretty much signifying he's not winning the U.S. title on Saturday. And then our first NXT call-up of the night. The tag team of Pretty Deadly. Now, I am not super familiar with these guys because I didn't really watch when they were in NXT. So, I'm pretty excited to see what they can do. Next up, we have the mixed tag team match playa. We got Dominic Mysterio, Rhea Ripley, and Damian Priest of the Judgment Day taking on LWO members Santos Escobar, Rey Mysterio, and Zelina Vega. Now, before this match got underway, we had a promo from the Judgment Day, because of course they do, pretty much hyping up Backlash, and then Damian Priest breaking out a promo in Spanish. Like, dude, that was awesome. Personally, I don't speak Spanish, so I'm not even going to try to guess what he said, but it's probably to hype his match with Bad Bunny. So, yeah, it's going to be interesting. Then out come the LWO, pretty much saying, we didn't try to run from Judgment Day, we just needed to get away from you. So, interesting little back and forth, and then we get we finally get into the match, which starts out between Priest and Escobar, and honestly, these two have some pretty dang good chemistry together. Classic big guy versus little guy. It's always fun. Ray and Dom get into it a little bit. And then Zelina Vega and Rhea Ripley show us a little preview of their match coming Saturday. Then finish comes with Ray looking to hit the 619. Finn Balor gets in the way, takes it for Priest. Then we hit the Priest hits the South of Heaven for the victory. And honestly, that's I'm a little sad that the OW are pretty much jobbers. Hopefully, with Judgment Day now on Raw and LWO on SmackDown, we get some new, fresh matchups. We then get a Cody Rhodes backstage interview, pretty much revealing, yeah, Brock's in my head. I've been thinking about this moment ever since he turned on me on the Raw after WrestleMania. And if I lose at Backlash, story's pretty much done. And I go to the back of the line. Which, yeah, it's a little sad, but it's definitely true. There's a lot riding on this match for Backlash, and fingers crossed Cody wins. Like, I think he needs it more than anyone. We got a Bianca Belair interview. She's ready to defend her Raw Women's title on whatever brand she's on. Nothing but love for Raw, but SmackDown will always be my home. In comes Damage Control. Bayley hypes her and Dakota Kai's matchup with the tag team champions coming in the future. And then hyping Io Sky's and Bianca's match Saturday, saying she'll be the new champ. Bianca then pretty much says, yeah, I've been impressed by Sky. There's nothing... She's a really great talent. We've had some really great matches over the years. But it feels like Damage Control is holding her back. So setting the seeds of discontent. And maybe a potential breakup by maybe Backlash, maybe a little later. We'll see. It would be interesting if it happened on SummerSlam, actually, when the team first formed. I think I'd be okay with that. And our last batch of on-screen draft picks, we have JBL, boo, and former SmackDown General Manager Teddy Long, holla holla player. And our picks, Alpha Academy sticking together on Raw. Okay. Rick Boogs going to SmackDown. No Elias attachment, so we'll see what happens there. Katana Chance and Kaden Carter are going to Raw. An NXT call-up. This one's interesting because now the champions and their challengers are now up on the main roster. It's going to be interesting to see what they do with those. And then our final pick on screen of the night, Cameron Grimes, baby, to the moon. Going to SmackDown. He's finally making his debut on the main roster, and I am hyped for it. We then get our main event of Raw. It is Solo Sikoa versus Seth Rollins. And instead of going right into an attack into Solo, Seth kind of rolls out, kind of runs around the ring. Solo chases him. We get a little bit of action, not super much until, you guessed it, super kicks by the Usos to cause the DQ. This is 3 weeks in a row this has happened in the main event. Like, if you're not just going to book a clean main event, don't book these matches, man. Like, for real. So Seth wins by DQ. Out comes Zayn, Owens, and Riddle to make the save. However, Raw went overtime, and it immediately cut there. Like, that's Bush League, man. Like, honestly, it's baffling to see Raw post stuff like this. But you had more than enough time. But that's what happens when you start main event at like 10:50. Like, it wasn't a bad match at all, but the abruptness of the interference kind of took away from the match a bit. So, overall, this Raw felt a bit like it lagged a bit for the first time in a while. Like, not a ton of substance was really there. Even the draft felt a little boring. Like, you definitely had some NXT call-ups, which is appreciated. But in terms of, like, big surprises, like, I know there's a couple of injuries going on. You got Randy Orton, you got Big E, you got a whole bunch of other people who are injured. But I would have liked to seen them. Even if it's just in support. I don't know. Draft was a bit boring. Show was a bit boring too, honestly. But hopefully, post-draft, we get an idea of where we're going for, the next couple weeks. We got Night of Champions. We got the World Title Tournament. We got Roman Reigns doing his thing. So, hopefully, we get a little bit more of what WWE's plans are going forward. Now, we do have a couple of extra picks that went down post-Raw. And I will give you, maybe not the order, but who went where. So, it's going to be interesting, so sit tight. So, going to Raw, Akira Tozawa. Not big surprise, hopefully he'll do something interesting in the future. Dana Brooke sticking to Raw. That should be fun enough. Emma going to Raw, so that's going to be interesting. She is joined by Riddick Moss, obviously. Into Cher, that's Jinder Mahal, Veer, and Sangha going to Raw. That could be kind of interesting. Get the tag division a little bit more depth. Johnny Gargano sticking to Raw. That makes sense. We pretty much got the entire Way stable on Raw, besides Theory. Los Lotharios, that's Angel Garza and Humberto Carrillo. So, some more depth for the tag division. Nikki Cross staying on Raw. I feel like she would have been better off a bit on SmackDown. Our next NXT call-up, we have Odyssey Jones. Bit of an interesting pick. I'm not super familiar with this person. And hopefully they impress in the future. Piper Niven sticking to Raw. And coming over from SmackDown to Raw, we have Tegan Nox, who we haven't seen in a really long time. And Xia Li, kind of same. So, we'll see what happens there. Next up, we got going to SmackDown. It's Tamina and Grayson Waller rounding out the SmackDown roster. And joining the free agent pool. And I can't believe this. This is interesting. It's Shelton Benjamin and Cedric Alexander, undrafted. Elias, too, which is very strange. So I guess they're going to be bouncing around a little bit. We'll see what happens. Alright, next up, we got a little NWA Power, in which we start off with a Camille promo. she's coming up on 700 days of her title reign. She pretty much puts out there who can beat Camille now. Then out come Daisy Kill and his monster. Sorry, I'm blanking on the name. And pretty much hype up Natalia Markova, calling Camille scared of Natalia. And Camille accepts the challenge for later in the night, although it's non-title, so that's interesting. Next up, we have a national title match as Carnage from the Brute Force Trauma take on EC3, the national champion. And honestly, this was kind of a fun opener. It was a lot of good back and forth. Not a ton of great chemistry, but it did its job enough, I feel like. At one point, EC3 gets tossed to the outside while Carnage distracts the ref. Aaron Stevens, a.k.a. Damien Sandow, goes for his loaded glove strike. Misses, hits the turnbuckle, which, that's going to be interesting. EC3 then puts him into the turnbuckle himself. Gets back in the ring. Hits a big splash. And then hits him with a purpose submission, which is like, it's some kind of weird cross between a crossface and a chicken wing for the submission win. And still your national champion. Next up, we have a Hollywood Blondes interview. And no, it's not Stunning Steve and Flying Brian. They are ready for the opportunity for the women's tag team titles in their debut tonight. And we're going to get some new champions. We then get an interview. He doesn't really say much. With Yabo the Clown, who is taking on Ricky Morton next week on Power. He then laughs a little bit, blows up a balloon, says, Ricky, bites it until it pops. Seeing that happen skeeves me out, and maybe that's the point of this character. Maybe he's not the silly clown. Maybe he's like a big metal clown, you know? Next up, we got the NWA Women's Tag Team titles as M95 take on the Hollywood Blondes. And honestly, this was a big old fun match. A lot of good back and forth. Chemistry wasn't there at first, but then they made it work, which is very impressive from the two newcomers. Continuously during the match, there was some misfires from M95 on each other, but eventually, after a kick fillet and a reality check, your winners, still NWA Women's Tag Team Champions, M95. And then we get the slowdown time for the night, as Tyrus, who has previously revealed he is going to be in the Crockett Cup, announces his tag team partner, Chris Adonis, his former challenger at NWA 312. Then we get Adonis come out. He's getting ready for his match. He kind of gets in Tyrus's face, pretty much says, yo, dude, I don't know what this is. We'll talk about it later. Pretty much setting up that Adonis didn't know this was coming. They hadn't talked about it previously. So, that's a nice little storytelling beat. Including Adonis' opponent for the evening, Scion, getting into Tyrus's face, considering they were both in the same stable. Although, are they still? I'm not sure what's going on with Idol Sports Management. But, whatever. Then we get Chris Adonis versus Scion, which honestly was very, very good. A lot of good technical wrestling. Adonis goes for the Master Lock, and Cyon blocks it by linking his hands, which, that was smart. Then we get, after a big old sling blade and a 2, Cyon, who has Austin Idol ringside, his kayfabe father, pretty much yells at him, "Hey, I've been doing everything you told me to do, and now I'm not a champion anymore." Then Idol pretty much says, "We're going to get that back. Don't you worry. We're going to get it back." Then Cyon pretty much says, "Yeah, I'm done with you. I'm going my own way." And then after a big surprise roll-up, your winner, Chris Adonis. So it looks like we got another father-son tandem breaking up. We'll get to that in 1 second. And yeah, we're gonna see what this is. Speaking of a father-son tandem, we now get a Ricky Morton interview in which he's pretty much says, "Yeah, I've been in the business 45 years. I've seen all kinds of crazy guys in the ring, so this is nothing new to me. All he has to worry about is pulling my foot from his behind," which, honestly, that's a good line. Very PG line, but it got a giggle out of me. Interviewer then asks, "Oh, what about your little dissension with your son? Are you going to be ready for Crockett Cup?" And Ricky pretty much says, "Yeah, we're going to work out that stuff between us, and we'll work it out by the Crockett Cup." So that should be a fun one to keep an eye on. And finally, our main event of the evening, as we got Camille taking on Natalia Markova, not for the women's title. And honestly, I'm going to call it what it was. It was a hoss fight. These two, pretty much, immovable object versus unstoppable force. They collide, and it was a whole lot of fun. They went tit for tat with one another, trying to gain pinfalls, submissions, each one breaking out. And then Camille is trapped in a submission move. For a long time, she starts to tap post bell, in which it's announced it is a time limit draw. So there is no winner, but we will potentially be seeing a rematch down the line, which I'm pretty excited for that. Would have liked to see a winner for this match? Absolutely, but I understand. And next up, I'm a little sad about this one. It is our last MLW Underground show. MLW has been showing on the Reels channel for a while now, but now with Reels going to Peacock, and Peacock showing WWE product, MLW is going back to Fusion in a couple weeks after a hiatus. So this will be our last MLW Underground. Hopefully not forever, maybe just for now. And then we get the celebration of the Bumaye Fight Club. Alex Kane pretty much hyping up Mr. Thomas, who has a cash open challenge for anyone who can beat Mr. Thomas. And then out comes Davey Boy. He calls out Davey Boy Smith, Jacob Fatu, and the world champion Alex Hammerstone, who answers the challenge. And it starts out as a nice little hoss fight. Some good stuff going on. About mid-match, actually after a nightmare pendulum, your winner Alex Hammerstone, who gets the money. While he's celebrating, a calling come out. They start attacking Hammerstone. Then Hammerstone gets saved by Jacob Fatu, Juicy Finau, and Lance Adawai, the Samoan SWAT team. And they fight to the back. It is then announced at MLW's first pay-per-view, which is going to be on Fight Plus, so get your subscriptions ready. never say never, with our main event being for the MLW World Championship, Alex Hammerstone versus Alex Kane, who is cashing in his Battle Riot win for then, which it's going to be interesting to see that. We then get a little Mance Warner promo, pretty much calling out Sam Adonis, so that match should be fun. Speaking of a fun little match, we get the MLW World Tag Team titles as the main event, making their MLW doubles debut. They debuted in the Battle Riot, take on Lance Anoa'i and Juicy Finale of the Samoan SWAT team. And before the bell, main event attacks, Samoan SWAT team taking out the Samoan SWAT team for a bit. They get Lance Anoa'i back in the ring, continue the attack. Then Lance with the big comeback, super kicks, crossbody, and then he brings Juicy Finale with a Congo driver and a big splash. Your winners, still tag team champions, the Samoan SWAT team. Then we get the announcement that the Opera Cup tournament will be starting May 25th, which will be the reboot for Fusion. So that should be a fun one. We then get a very interesting women's match as Brittany Blake makes a return against the debuting Becca, who starts out singing her own entrance theme, a la Jillian Hall, if you remember that name. If you don't, look her up. She's something else. Then Becca breaks out the wrestling moves. That was definitely very interesting. It was a very interesting match. A lot of good back and forth. And then ultimately winning via the World Tour Splash. Your winner, Becca. It is announced that Delmi Exo, formerly of the Sea Stars, looks like she's going solo, has signed with MLW and expects to dethrone Taya. We then get a brawl between the Samoan SWAT team and the FBI backstage, where we come to our main event, the National Openweight Championship, as John Hannigan defends against Jacob Fatu. However, during Fatu's entrance, the calling jump Jacob Fatu, and then, that's how MLW Underground ends. Very interesting ending, sets up some interesting rivalries, and fingers crossed we get some interesting pairings going forward for Fusion. And finally, we get AEW Dynamite, which starts out with a big old 8-man tag team match player. You'll have Orange Cassidy, Bandito, Adam Cole, baby, and making his in-ring debut, Roderick Strong, taking on Jericho Appreciation Society members Jake Hager, Daniel Garcia, Matt Menard, and Angelo Parker. This match was a lot more fun than it really needed to be. Definitely some good back and forth. At one point, Adam Cole tries to go after Jericho, who's sitting at the announce desk. He gets cut off by the other Jericho Appreciation Society members. You get an orange punch, beach break, tags him and Adam Cole with a knee strike, and then the boom. Your winners, Adam Cole, Roderick Strong, Orange Cassidy, and Bandito. Post-match, Cole rushes the announce desk to take out Jericho, and they go flying through the back drop through the stage, which, honestly, that was a little bit crazy. It's going to be interesting. We then get a Jungle Boy Darby Allin interview, pretty much saying they're ready to shake up the main event. Neither of us have main evented a pay-per-view, but one of us is walking out champion. Then we see Adam Cole being separated by security from Chris Jericho. Britt Baker rolls up and just slaps the taste out of Jericho's mouth while she follows Cole. That's a setup for something later on, don't you worry. We then get a Blackpool Combat Club promo backstage. Brian Danielson pretty much says, yeah, I'm the best wrestler in the world. No one else can touch me except maybe one of these men. And then my hope is that Yuta becomes better than me. And that's the difference between us and the Elite. We mold young minds. We mold young wrestlers. And you're just holding people back. Then Moxley hypes up his upcoming cage match with Omega next week, which that should be a ton of fun. We then get Saraya taking on Willow Nightingale. I think this is Saraya's first singles outing in AEW. No, second, that's right. She took on Dr. Britt Baker at, not Winter is Coming. Shoot, I forget when it was. Anyway, during the match, obviously the Outcasts interfere. Willow Nightingale is, like, legitimately becoming one of my favorite wrestlers. Maybe on any roster. Like, yeah, she's the normal smiley character, but she can bring it in the ring. Like, she's that good. Then after a big old Death Valley driver, Storm gets the ref's attention, a pounce for Soho, and then a good night from Saraya for the 1, 2, 3. Post-match, the Outcasts continue to attack Willow. Out comes Hikaru Shida. She's got her kendo stick. Looks like she's about to attack the Outcasts. She then gives them the kendo stick, pretty much saying, "Oh, I'm with you guys now." But then, out of nowhere, Jamie Hayter and Britt Baker from behind, Terminator style. And then Shida with the kendo stick shots to the Outcasts. A huge brawl breaks out. And then you'll have the Outcasts laying out in the ring as they spray paint AEW on them. So it's a little bit of more of story progression for the women. I really enjoyed it. And we'll see what happens going forward. We then get a very interesting House of Black promo. Pretty much saying these AEW Trios titles we hold are tainted. They need to be cleansed. So we're issuing a House Rules House rules for the Trios titles. Could be any combination of three competitors can have a shot. No countouts, no rope breaks. Semi DQ, I guess that's up to the ref. And this one should be fun. And then we get House of Black pick up new blacked out Trios title, which looks so awesome. Speaking of the Trios division, we have the Tres de Mayo Trios Royale, which is pretty much a Trios Battle Royal, in which it's over the top rope, both feet hit the floor, and when all three are eliminated, the entire team is eliminated. Participants, we have the Lucha Brothers, current Ring of Honor Tag Champions. Their partner, El Hijo del Vikingo, the AAA Mega Championship. Members of the Varsity Athletes, that's Tony Nese, Ari Daivari, and Josh Woods. The Dark Order, which is Evil Uno, Alex Reynolds, and John Silver. The Acclaimed, that's Max Caster and Anthony Bowens, teaming with Billy Gunn. You have Powerhouse Hobbs, QT Marshall, and Aaron Solo. And Butcher, Blade, and Kip Sabian. Now, I'm not going to go through everything because it is definitely a lot. It's pretty much your standard battle royal with your winners, the Acclaimed. So, maybe we're going to see the Acclaimed take on House of Black in the future, which, yeah, that could be fun. We then get a Sammy Guevara interview. In comes MJF, crying crocodile tears, saying, "Oh, I had a bad flare-up in my back. I don't know if you would understand." Then as MJF is trying to walk away, Sammy turns him around, big old kiss on the forehead, pretty much says, "Yeah, I should never have doubted you." And we're going to make sure our main event for Double or Nothing stays intact. So that's going to be interesting. We then get a Don Callis Kenny Omega interview. Callis reminding everyone what Mox did to him, leading to a skull contusion, I think he said it was, with a big old scar running down here. But in Detroit, in the cage, everything ends. The Blackpool Combat Club cannot save you. And yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what happens going forward. We then get Wardlow pretty much crushing a Logan Leroy, I believe his name was. Pretty much a local yokel. He then calls out Luchasaurus. Christian Cage comes out with him. Then Christian Cage pretty much says, "Yeah, I'm not ready to do this here tonight, but I will say this title match isn't for Luchasaurus. I'm taking the shot." So, in the future, we're going to be getting Christian Cage versus Wardlow, which, I mean, I do wish it was Luchasaurus, but I'm definitely okay with Christian. We then get the entire stable of J&J, that's Jeff Jarrett, Jay Lethal, Satnam Singh, and Sanjay Dutt, visiting the Briscoe chicken farm, in which they apologize for the misunderstanding the last couple of weeks with FTR, and they are here to help lend a hand on the farm, which then leads to a lot of shenanigans. You see Satnam Singh and overalls chasing a chicken, and it's definitely funny. We then have Papa Briscoe show up, taking a look at all these newcomers, pulls Mark to the side, pretty much says, "Hey, I know you've known Jay Lethal for a while. He's fine. But the rest, I'm going to keep an eye on. Keep your eye on him." It is then revealed Mark Briscoe has a match for Rampage, and then Jeff Jarrett and Jay Lethal issue a challenge for FTR for Double or Nothing for a tag title shot, which, yeah, I know J&J have been stepping their game up for a bit, but I think the tag division needs some new challengers. Like, it's time. This next match was a lot of fun. Match we should have gotten on Long Island, but instead we get it here. Ricky Starks one-on-one with Juice Robinson, and honestly, it was great. It felt like it was main event level. Then we get a Juice is Loose countered into a roll-up. Spear, Rochambeau, your winner, Ricky Starks. Which, that keeps Ricky Starks looking white hot. Then we have Jay White attacking Ricky from behind. Then, right as Ricky is about to hit a Rochambeau on White, Juice Robinson makes the save, and then they will both slink off to the back. Next up, we see Jungle Boy and... Fucking Christ, Verlander. You have Jungle Boy and Darby Allin backstage getting ready for their match. Darby Allin leaves the area. In comes MJF. Pretty much says, yeah, I like you, love you like a brother. We could be running this show if you just cut the goody two-shoes act. And he offers Jungle Boy a spot next to the throne. But Jungle Boy pretty much rejects it. Pretty much says, I don't want a spot next to the throne. I want the dang crown. Which, that hyped me up a little bit. Darby re-enters the scene. Pretty much says, hey, what's going on? What are we doing here? Then Jungle Boy says, no, he's just leaving. And then we get our main event of the evening. We have Jungle Boy, Jack Perry, and Darby Allin taking on MJF and Sammy Guevara. And if Jungle Boy and Darby Allin win, it'll be a 4-way at Double or Nothing. If MJF and Sammy win, it stays 1-on-1. And honestly, this match was absolutely phenomenal. You had a lot of good back and forth. By the end, you have MJF and Sammy kind of arguing, kind of getting in each other's faces, blind tagging each other in. And then we get a Sammy super kick to MJF's face. A knee in which, by Jungle Boy, he goes for the clothesline. Darby tacks in, hits a big old coffin drop, almost crushing Jungle Boy. So your winners, Jungle Boy and Jack Perry and Darby Allin, and they are now officially added to the Double or Nothing main event. Whew, that was a lot to get through. I hope you guys enjoyed it. So coming later this week, coming tomorrow, will be my predictions for Backlash. That should be a fun one. And then Saturday, I will obviously be covering Impact Wrestling, Ring of Honor, first time in a little while, SmackDown, and potentially Rampage. Rampage is on at 6:30 that night. So we'll see what happens from there. And then on Tuesday, I'm going to be seeing Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. Should have a review up for that in the future. So stay tuned for all of that. Hope you guys have a really good day. And, of course, happy wrestling, everybody. Peace.